pedal to the metal, go, go, go!
Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to the PSGL Esports Cup event. We are here for round 4 of the championship as we take in the Singapore Grand Prix from the Marina Bay Street Circuit. My name is James Hay, going to be taking to the stream as always on a Friday night, and joining me in the commentary box, it is, of course, Mr. Aidan Carter. Aidan, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you, James. Thank you for asking. It's going to be, again, another exciting race, hopefully, tonight. Of course, a brand new, a completely different circuit to what we've had so far. So, yeah, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it is going to be fantastic. Of course, Singapore, one of those tracks where it can get very, very tight. And why not let you run through a track introduction? Now, I will warn you that there is no sound file on this video, so you're going to be treated to live commentary by me. So let us get started then. Let us go and have a look at the track map and the track of the Singapore Street Circuit. Let's take you through a lap. As we now come through the final corner, on board with Modesto, running now down the start-finish straight with the first DRS zone down in towards turn 1, taking the curve very nicely indeed. Now through turn 2, and then through turn 3, the left-hander, looking very nice indeed there from Modesto, as he now comes through turn 4, and then through the right-hander of turn 5, clipping the wall nearly on the left-hand side, taking as much curb as possible, as now he comes through the kink of turn 6, down in towards Memorial Corner at turn number 7. And through the end of the first sector, again, green on the first sector, as you can see, now through turn 7, and then in towards turn 8, the next right-hander. Now coming through in towards turn 9, taking as much curb as possible, nearly clipping the wall on the right-hand side there, but you can afford to do that without hitting the wall. As it now comes down into the Singapore Sling, through turn 10, now through turn 11, and across the Anderson Bridge in towards turn 12, and then into the hairpin, of course, of turn 13. And at this point in the lap, we're nearly pretty much halfway through the lap, and towards the end of the middle sector as well. And you can see on the right-hand side, he is still green on his lap, so it means he is improving. As he now comes through turn 14, in towards turn 15, and then through what I like to call PK Gate, through 16, and then through 17, of course, 2008. Nelson Piquet spun through there, awarding Fernando Alonso the win. Now coming through turn 18 and through turn 19 underneath the grandstand, through then turn 20 and 21, as he now runs towards the end of the lap, as we now come through the final two left-handers of 22 and 23 to 33.7 from Modesto. A very good lap there from the Spaniard. But that is a lap for the Singapore circuit. And Aidan, it is clear to see why this track it is so difficult to try and make mistakes at.
Yeah, it is a really, really difficult circuit to master. Of course, we've already had a street circuit this season in Baku, but this is very different to Baku in that sense, that Baku is really, really high speed. This track, the corners come at you so quickly. There's so many corners in such a short distance, really, in this lap, isn't it? It's considered usually the longest race on the calendar, but it's by far and away not one of the longest tracks on the calendar in terms of distance. It's just there's so many corners coming at you so quickly, it feels like a long circuit. So going to be really difficult for a lot of these drivers to keep their attention and keep the car at the walls for the majority of this race.
Yeah, I mean, the Singapore circuit is 5 kilometres in length, and you would imagine it is probably one of the longest on the F1 calendar. It's not. I think it's something where 9th or 10th in the F1 calendar around in terms of track length. And it is one of these tracks where you can really get caught out, especially by the curbs, which can kill you in terms of your momentum through the lap. We'll have a look actually at the championship standings, the constructor standings from last week in Spain, and of course Visceral Esports picking up a dominant win. It was used to took the win, of course, last time out. They're now on 172 points, leading the way. Outplayed Racing in second on 118. VRT in third on 66, Team Mentalism in fourth on 64, IFO and WR are tied for fifth on 62, Chazoo in seventh on 44, with TTG in eighth on 33, ET8 after their really good debut on 27 points in ninth, and FVR rounding off the top 10. And obviously, Aidan, the biggest fallout in the last week is, of course, VRT folding, and obviously we've got TF10 coming in replacing them.
Yeah, we have. Second week in a row, and we've got a new team in. Obviously, last week it was ET8. Now it is, of course, like you say, we've now got a new team in the terms of TF10. So it's going to be interesting to see how the team gets on. It's a well-established team already. It's a very, very strong team. I'm sure that they're incredibly used to team events like this. It's just how they fit into this category, really, into this championship, how they fit in against these other teams. But I doubt that they're going to struggle. I think that they could be a really, really strong team for the rest of this season. And it's great to see new competition in, isn't it? ET8 did a great job, like you said last week, and hopefully they can continue on and TF10 can follow suit in the same way.
Yeah, hopefully there's going to be no burning rivalry between ET8 and TF10. Of course, the qualifying night, I think they were only separated by something like 800ths of a second. So ET8 obviously qualified as the reserve team. TF10 were the team behind them in terms of the qualifying. That's why they've been invited along. And I've got to say, fantastic team in terms of TF10. Of course, remember, ET8 started on 0 points last week. The same applies once again this week. So that means TF10 also starts on 0 points. But inevitably, they are going to be picking up points as we go on throughout the season. Let us have a look then before we really get going in towards the qualifying session. We've got about 4 minutes to go, so we can have a really good in-depth run through of the lineups. And ET8 obviously represented with Asi and Gustav. For VSR, it is Duncan and Yus. Very strong lineup once again. In Shazoo, it is Suku and Kazizel. FVR, who both have qualifying bans because of a late lineup submission. They have got Isma and Modesto, Modestral, of course. TTG, represented by Michi and Fabi. Team Mentalism are Johan and Louis. OP are Facilo and Nico. Very strong lineup, I think, for OP. WR are Namsco and now WR Giel, who joins the team. TF10 are represented by Leo and Will G, again, formerly of VRT. And IFR represented by Dutch Missile and Jensen. And obviously, Aidan, looking at that lineup, VSR, obviously the team to beat. But TF10, for their first event, obviously lining up with Leo and Will G. We've seen Will G so far, I think it was in France we saw him for VRT. And he did show quite a lot of pace, even though it was on a one-stop strategy.
Yeah, has shown quite a bit of pace already this season. Both of them have really, at certain points, have shown strong pace, but when they were in VRT, it didn't necessarily come together for them. I remember, I think both of them, if I'm not mistaken, drove in Baku at the same time for the same team. So, and that wasn't really a strong team for them, unfortunately, strong race for them for the first round of the season. So, they'll be hoping that maybe a change of team is a change of fortune for them. At least for Will G, he's still in the same car. He's still in that McLaren, so somewhat of a familiarity for him. But even though they are equal cars, it is, of course, just a distraction maybe to be in something a little bit different. So we'll see if the others can keep up with that. See if they can adjust to that quickly enough in their new team.
Yeah, you'd like to imagine so. I mean, obviously, within the PSGL Esports Cup event, we like to see every team thrive in their own bubble, essentially. And we've seen VSR obviously dominating the event so far. But we have a look at the standings once again. It is OP, obviously, in second. They're on their debut season, of course, even within the PSGL Esports Cup. 118 points to their name. And the Italian outfit have done very, very well. They've got Nico and, obviously, Facilo joining them tonight for their lineup. And they're both very strong drivers once again. So OP could actually take the fight to VSR around a track, obviously, where very limited overtaking is absolutely key.
Yeah, they definitely can. I think OP's strong point so far this season has been their ability to get the most out of a situation that maybe isn't going their way. I mean, they've maybe not been the second fastest team on outright speed so far this season. I think they'll openly admit that as well. But they've benefited from a few situations and got the most out of the situation that they can at pretty much every race so far this season. So, yeah, definitely strong contenders. I will say, though, that those Aston Martins, the VSR team, do look just untouchable at the moment, don't they? They've been on such a run of good form. It's going to take a special performance from any of the teams to knock them off the top spot.
Yeah, you'd imagine. So I think Duncan and News obviously have got pretty much an own battle developing between themselves. Obviously, if we had a driver's standings, it'd be very interesting to see how each of these drivers would be getting on in terms of that. But as you say, VSR, probably the strongest lineup. Looking to the rest of the lineups as well, I've got to pick out, to be honest, WOR, Namsco and Giel. Giel obviously moving to the team after VRT, obviously being now defunct within the last couple of days. Giel moves to WR. How good of an important move could that be for Giel to really try and thrive him as part of the lineup there in WR?
It could be a really good move. Of course, VRT closing down is obviously such a shame for the team, and it obviously may have affected some of the drivers in that way. But we know WOR are a well-established team already. They're really, really strong, and I'm sure that Gil has some good relationships within that team already. So I'm sure it's not going to be too much of a struggle for him. Like I mentioned, it's obviously being a part of a new team. He'll hope maybe his fortunes have changed from when he was in the Vortex team earlier in the season, but we'll wait and see. I don't imagine he'll struggle too much.
Yeah, he wouldn't struggle too much, I don't think, but we'll have to see, of course, how he gets on in his first lineup. Anybody else in terms of the team lineup that you think could have a chance of actually stealing some really good points tonight?
I've got my eye on the Mercedes pair of TTG. I think they could have a really strong race. I think they've had multiple races this season where they've had really strong pace. I think Spain really stands out for Christmas, who was having really, really good pace throughout that race, and it kind of just fell apart for him midway through, unfortunately. That's kind of been the story of TTG's season so far, is really, really strong early pace showing, and then it just kind of falls away from them by the end of the race. So hopefully this time around it plays more in their favour, and we know Fabi is incredibly fast, and we know Mitchie is incredibly fast as well, so this could be a turning point in their season, possibly.
Yeah, Fabi, to come on to Fabi, actually, I commentated on TTML last night in the F1 division. Obviously, that's a line only. And he finished third in Brazil, so obviously he's got some good form to carry with him, alongside of obviously Mitchie, who has done quite well so far in this event. The countdown has now started, so we are about to get, of course, onto the on-track action. And let's have a look then at this track map in question. We will have a formal track introduction, of course, at the end of qualifying. But 5 kilometres and then 3.1 mile, 23 turns awaiting the guys out on track. Of course, 3 DRS zones, 1 down the start-finish straight, 1 down in towards Memorial Corner at turn 7, and then in towards turn 14, obviously just across the Anderson Bridge, running down the hill in towards turn 14. And obviously, Aidan, 3 DRS zones around a track that is very much minutely developed within the city here in Singapore. It could make, for, as I said earlier on, very limited overtaking opportunities, especially if you get stuck in a DRS train.
Yeah, definitely can happen. DRS around here it's kind of a formality, really, isn't it, around this track? You have to have DRS at a track in Formula 1, and they found the ideal places to do it here, and they've put in as many as they can to try and aid overtaking, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference. You've got to say that the only corner that we're going to see some proper overtaking in is down Raffles Boulevard through 6 and into turn 7. That's really the main overtaking point on this track. The one thing to note, like you said, obviously DRS trains have been a thing for the Formula 1 games for the past 18 months or so now, so everybody should be used to those by now, but it is very common for field spread to happen at Singapore. We know that tyre wear and tyre strategy, and of course the track just being as difficult it is, it's easy for the pack to get spread out, so that will make it somewhat easier for some of these drivers, and hopefully they'll then be able to make their way through the field if the field does spread.
Yeah, you'd like to imagine so, to be honest. Obviously, we have got qualifying amounts here. I've just spotted, by the way, a weird glitch, just to come on to this, in the Red Bull garage. I can see an arm moving, and there's no mechanic there. Anyways, back out onto track. Kazoo was the first man out on track, of course, for Shizou, both in the Williams, of course. And Shizou have done relatively good performances so far this season, and obviously they're standing there just, I think, ahead of WR. So obviously they have got some really good form in between themselves. Kazoo has been a man who can reach the form, can reach the highest height for Shizou. How do you think they're going to get on tonight?
It's going to be interesting to see, isn't it? They've had a solid season, like you say, but they've kind of flown a little bit under the radar, haven't they? They've not had major standout performances. They've just been solidly going about their business, getting top 10s where they can, and scoring the points as often as they can. Their season's kind of been very similar in a way to the likes of Team Mentalism, in that sense that it's just kind of been running around, getting as many points as you can, not having a shockingly good season, but still getting the points when they need to. So, I mean, if there's ever a track where we're going to see drivers, well, see that the VSR team get knocked off the top spot and see a surprise winner, it's probably Singapore, isn't it? If Monaco's not on the calendar, then it's probably going to be Singapore. So, I mean, we could see something good from Shizou tonight. They didn't have the best run, unfortunately, last time out. They didn't score a single point, unfortunately, last time out in Spain. So, hopefully this time around they can rebuild some of that momentum.
Yeah, Shizou, I mean, 44 points behind WR. I've actually mistaken them for another team, but they are on 44 points. They're behind WR by about 18 points. They can reach towards that top end if they put in a really good shift. Of course, they have got Cornet as their other driver as well. Let me ride you on board then with Kazisel as we now come through the final corners of 22 and 23, now running across the line to start us then on this lap around the Marina Bay Street Circuit. I've called this the Yas Marina Circuit before. We now come through turn 1, through turn 2 with Kazisel, and then coming through turn 3. Not sure if you actually invalidated coming out of turn 2 there. Now coming out through turn 3, through the kink of 4, and then in towards turn 5. And again, as you mentioned, Aidan, down Raffles Boulevard in towards turn 6. Open up that second DRS zone. It looks a bit scrappy so far, if I've got to be honest, from Kazizel's perspective. Now coming down Raffles Boulevard in towards Memorial Corner. It's a good first sector from Kazizel, as it now comes through turn 7 and then in towards the right-hander of turn number 8 as well. As we now come through turn 8, on the run towards turn 9, and then to the reformatted, of course, Singapore's thing. Just a left-hander now, otherwise known as the chicane back in the day. The corner that can really kill you out on track in terms of the chicane is now we come through turn 11, and then through turn 12, of course, the Anderson Bridge, and then in towards turn 13 through the hairpin. And again, this mixture of city skyline and street circuit really puts the drivers on edge, and so far it looked like a cleanish lap from Kazizel, as it now comes through the end of the middle sector, down in towards turn 14, now hits the right-handed apex through turn 14, and then in towards 15, and then through PK Gate at 16 and 17. Of course, 2008, he spun and let Alonso obviously win the race, and obviously there was a whole, well, Crashgate, I think we can call it. They're through the grandstand of 18 and 19. Modesto was obviously retired from the session. He's got a qualifying ban alongside his teammate Isma, as we now come through turns 20 and 21 on board with Kazizel. It has looked like quite a scrappy lap, but he now comes through the final corners of 22 and 23, comes across the line, and Kazizel's lapped up to 34.8 to start the night.
Yeah, not a bad first lap from Kazizel, like you say. It was a little bit scrappy at some points as Isma retires from the session, as you just said, but yeah, at least there's a banker on the board. We know it's easy to invalidate around this track. It's easy to put the car on the wall as well, but across the line, Eust comes, and he goes just over 0.2 of a second faster in that Aston Martin back at the top as well. But not maybe as far away as I thought he would be, as he thought ET8, the first driver to put a lap in on the medium compound tyres at 35.7. That's kind of where you would expect to be on the mediums, about a second off the pace.
Yeah, Cornet goes third as well, 34.8. I'm on board with Duncan coming through the final corner as well. The German, of course, coming through, 22 and 23. Comes to the line and goes second. And look at that for timing split. 4,000th of a second off his own teammate. First and second already in VSR, continuing the good form, of course, as we've seen so far. Fabi coming across the Anderson Bridge section there as well. Louis on a lap along with Johan. Johan is the furthest on, as may I come through the final couple of corners with the Alpines. As now Johan comes through, 22 and 23 to the line and goes 8th position. He's on a set of medium compound tyres. Louis, I think, is also on a set of medium compound tyres. He's now coming through turns 22 and 23. Yeah, he's on the yellow wall tyre coming through the final corner, comes to the line, goes 7th, and he is the fastest of the medium runners so far. 35.5, and to be honest, Aiden, you said that the mediums would be around a second in terms of finding the time. 35.5 from Louis. We're obviously going to see the track degradation and the track elevation, I should say, improve as we go throughout the session. So Louis' time could be in threat of going around Will G. Kazizel sort of area.
Yeah, definitely could. Like you say, track evolution and just betting yourself into this track as well is going to be a real factor in this one.
Nico's crashed coming through the final corner, caught that on stream. The wall pretty much damaged on the right hand side as well, but Nico loses it out of the final corner. I don't think he was improving on his lap, but 34.9 puts him into 6th, but a massive crash coming through the final corner, an overcorrection, tried to oversteer it, understeered basically into the wall, and Nico out the session for OP, and that is not the start they wanted.
No, just as I was about to say that you need to bed yourself into this track, he goes and puts it in the wall, kind of proving the point really. You really need to bed yourself in to this circuit. You can't go out all on a limb on your first run because you run the risk of crashing, and Nico's just proven that. He managed to get across the line with a crashed car to set the lap time. Who knows what that lap time could have been if he hadn't crashed at the end of the lap, but yeah, no higher than a 34.9 for him in this session, and I doubt that's going to remain inside the top 10.
Yeah, I doubt so as well. Nico obviously in 6th. Cornet's only 300th of a second off him, obviously still in the session. Gil about 2/10 off him as well. So obviously improvements are going to be had. It's the track evolution, I should say, not the track evaluation, as I think I said earlier on. But we are 7 minutes through qualifying. Eust on top, Duncan second. Will G has just gone 3rd as well with a 34.8. Good lap from him in the McLaren, because he's there in 4th. Mitchie in 5th. I'm on board with the TF10 teammate, of course, of Will G, and that is Leo, who I don't think is on a very quick lap here, as now comes through the end of the middle sector, and yeah, I don't think actually Leo is on a lap, so he can probably scrap this one. I think for CeeLo, however, is now coming through across the Singapore thing, across the Anderson Bridge. Yeah,
he's going through the Anderson Bridge, like you say, trying to get a lap in at the moment, but yeah, not a great first sector. I don't know if he's on a fast lap either. That first sector time from Fusillo is not the fastest we've seen so far, and yeah, this doesn't look to be on the pace either at all in the middle sector. So this just looks like a quick run back into the pit lane to get another 2 runs in this session, which can be done. So yeah, just getting back to the pit lane as quickly as he can. Got the first driver back out on an out lap is Asi, the ET8 driver, and it's going to be his first lap on the soft. So this will be our first real gauge to see what the actual difference is between the mediums and the softs. So 35.7 at the moment. A 34.7, if he manages to find that second, would put him third at the moment. So we'll see what he can do. You can see what we can do for 13th.
Yeah, Asi 35.7, as you mentioned. He's on a set of medium compound size, or was on a set of mediums, now on a set of soft compound size. So you would imagine he's going to improve around that range, maybe around Nico Cornet sort of area. 34.9 is probably the split. It's normally about 8 tenths to a second in terms of the time you actually found out around here at Singapore. Looking at the comments section as well, somebody asking, what is this? It's the PSGL Esports Cup. I don't know why you're asking. It is the PSGL Esports Cup. It clearly says in the title. Of course, my name is James Head. Aidan Carter joining me in the commentary box on the PS4 platform, and Asi is about to set up a lap of course for ET8. And his teammate, actually, Gustav, on a bit of a split strategy so far. He's there in 10th, 35.4, on the bubble, as I like to say, in terms of qualifying within the top 10. It's a good lap from him so far, but Asi, obviously, must be the quicker driver, because he's obviously gone for split strategy and now goes on to a set of soft compound tyre.
Yeah, what this does, of course, as well, is it saves a set of softs for the race that he may be able to use at the end of the session. I mean, we know that safety cars are a common thing on this game. If there's a late safety car and as is in the position to pit, that it won't cost him too much time. He has a fresh set of soft compound tyres that he could possibly use at the end of the race. So it's a betting in lap at the start, and it's also a strategy for the race as well. So hopefully he can benefit from that in the race if there is a late safety car.
Yeah, I'll take the timing tower off on the left-hand side as well, as we now come through turn 1 on board with Asi. Gustav, his teammate, just off to the left-hand side there. Now through turn 2, and then through turn 3, and then in towards the clink of 4, and then in front of the Singapore Eye we go, in towards turn number 5. And of course, onto Raffles Boulevard, of course, running into the second DRS zone. 3 DRS zones, remember, if you are just tuning in, turn 1, turn 7, and turn 14 on the main DRS zones running down. Good first sector, actually. Sub 30 through the first sector from Asi. As he now comes through 7 and then in towards 8. Misses the apex, actually going towards 8. Nearly takes my line through there into the wall. As he now comes out of turn 9 and then in towards Singapore's thing. Of course, now being a left-hander instead of just being a chicane back in the early 2010s and of course in the late 2000s as well. As we now come through across the Anton Bridge in towards 11. Catches the curb slightly, nearly forced into the wall. Coming across the Anton Bridge in towards 12 and then into 13. Nico left the session, has managed to rejoin back, which I'm glad to report. So Nico will be back in the session to try and complete another lap in, or certainly he will not be improving because he crashed, of course, early on in the session. Now through turn 14 on board with Asi. He now comes out through the middle sector. Again, not a bad middle sector from him in terms of the time. As we now come through 16 and then through the left-hander of 17. He's got Louis just off to the left-hand side there for Team Mentalism. Now through 18 and then in towards turn 19 underneath the grandstand there as we now come through underneath the bridge, coming through 20 and then through 21 underneath the underpass, I should say. So we now come through 22 and 23 through the final 2 corners on board with Asi. To the line he goes, and it's not a bad lap from Asi at all. It is 8 with a 35 flat, so he actually goes around the exact sort of area, Nico and Cornet, where I was expecting.
Yeah, it goes right in, like you're saying. It was actually all in the last sector pretty much where we found that time. It was only 2 tenths up after the first 2 sectors and found half a second in the final part. So that's obviously where most of the corners are in quick succession, and the direction change on the soft compound tyres obviously helping the AlphaTauri driver out quite nicely in that final sector. But gotta say, there's definitely still more time in it, isn't there? Because that first and that middle sector didn't quite hook up the apex of every corner. So yeah, there's still a bit more time in that AlphaTauri.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, his teammate as well, Gustav, is about 4 tenths off him as well, so you would imagine Gustav is going to be improving as Giel goes to the top, 34.4. I think that is going to be beaten, however, by Houston Duncan. Houston came in back into the pit lane, wasn't happy with his lap. I think he caught traffic at the end of his lap as well. Duncan on a 34.6 in the minute. He's coming through in towards turn 18 and 19. Of course, Mr. Duncan Hoffman from the F1 Esports Pro Exhibition Series is now Duncan comes through 20 and 21. Rides the curve very nicely indeed. He now comes through 21 and then in towards the final 2 corners of 22 and 23. Round the double left, comes across the line, and he goes top by only 9,000th of a second. Will G is in behind him as well. Now about to come around the final couple of corners, and now comes through the final 2 corners. Will G comes to the line, and he goes third ahead of Use by about 600th of a second. Duncan out on top, Giel in second, Will G in third. So Duncan obviously holding his own, but the track improvement and the track, I was going to say elevation again, the track wear, I should say, it's really not coming into the sort of times I was expecting, because I was thinking maybe a high 133.
It's definitely possible a high 133, though. I think someone's going to have to really nail the lap and make sure that they're not overheating the tyres by the end of the run, which can happen around this circuit. It's very easy to do. So it's going to take a stellar lap from someone to do that. But yeah, like you say, drivers really struggling to find that optimum paces. Mitchie crosses the line and goes P5, but that's on his second lap on that set of soft compound tyres, so he's definitely going to want to come back in and set another run, because in the race, and we haven't really talked about strategy yet, but in the race the soft tyres are not really going to last a lot longer than 5 laps in this one. So as less tyre wear as you can have on the tyres before the start of the race, the better.
Yeah, definitely. Namsko's coming through the final couple of corners. Currently 15th. He's on a set of soft compound tyres now. Runs through the final corner, and the Haas comes to the line. Goes up to 6th. Good improvement there by Namsko. He goes 6th, 34.7. Duncan still out on top. Giel in 2nd, and Will G. Not Will LG. Oh, well, he could be the LG. He's in 3rd, of course, for TF10 there in 3rd. Used there in 4th. Mitchie in 5th, and Namsko in 6th. So WR, since obviously that, what we could call merge with VRT, Giel and Namsko not doing too bad a job. Namsko obviously back 0.3 of a second off Giel, but Giel well up there in terms of the pace, and it's not surprising to see, because obviously he had a good qualifying session earlier on as part of the VRT team, I think, in Baku. But Duncan and Giel currently 1st and 2nd position, and this is like an age-old battle between these two, with Just obviously 34.6. Inevitably, I think he's probably going to go quicker than everyone.
Yeah, it could happen, couldn't it? But yeah, they've had good pace all so far. Duncan, Giel, Wilgie and Eustace as well, all up at the front, and regulars up the front, as we're always used to seeing. So yeah, it'd be great to see what they can do. Eustace just gone back out for his another run now, so he's not left it right to the end of the session. He's going to go out now and make sure that he doesn't catch too much traffic. Yeah,
definitely not. Gustav now coming through the final corner into the pit lane. In fact, 34.4, 15th position. Leo has not set a lap time yet. Either has Fusilo, but Fusilo, one of the quicker guys in the PSGL F1 split on the PS4 platform, of course. He's going to try and get 2 runs in. He's about 3 minutes and 15 seconds from the end of the session to try and get those 2 runs in. Asi is reconnected into the session as well. And I think also we might have had a bit of a connection issue with Leo, who is also back in the session as well. But Fusilo now on an out lap, he's down there in 20th position. His teammate, obviously Nico, still in the bubble, in 9th position, 34.9. You said he'd be out of the top 10 come the end of the session. Look, judging by the improvements that we've been seeing further down the field, however, that might not be the case, and Nico just could sneak into that top 10 and start on that set of soft compound tyres.
He could sneak in, definitely. He definitely could sneak into the top 10. I think the fact that both FVR drivers aren't in this session as well is helping that fact, but I think we're still yet to see the best from some of these drivers. I think you've got to say that the likes of Fabi and Gustav are maybe a little bit out of position. We're still yet to see the best from Leo Fusilo as well. So at the moment, he's holding on, but it's going to take, I think, a miracle, and a lot of drivers making mistakes for Nico to hold on to that top 10 spot.
Yeah, on board with Jensen as we now come through in towards 6 and 7. Of course, Jensen was an absolute revelation in the first round in Baku. Finished in P3, obviously got done by Fusilo with the penalties in the end, in P4 in the end from Jensen in that race. And he hasn't, I don't think, turned up to any of the races since. So, Jensen, 36.2 on that in the Ferrari, on that set of soft compound tyres now, coming through the Singapore Sling at 10. We're right on board, obviously, with Duncan and Giel, as actually, Jensen has just invalidated this lap. Used, however, I believe, has just started on a lap, and he's actually invalidated coming out of turn 2. So everyone I turned on board with turned to go red, which is poor.
Yeah, rubber the mill, unfortunately, not quite going your way. I'm wondering whether you just maybe got caught in a little bit of traffic coming out of the pit lane, because he's come right back out onto the track, right in amongst drivers that are leaving the pit lane at the very last moment to get out on the track. So I wonder if that has distracted him in some way. That was the risk of running a little bit earlier in the session. He's got just enough time to get round. He's got to make sure, though, that he saves enough fuel to be able to get round and complete another lap, which is possibly going to be quite difficult for him. We'll wait and see what he can do, but at the moment, not looking too great for use at the end of this session.
Yeah, plenty of traffic as well. I'm on board with Vasilo coming through turn 8, now through turn 9, and then towards the Singapore Sling. There's plenty of traffic ahead of him. Ferrari off to the left-hand side. There's a McLaren out the way through turn 8 as well. But now Vasilo is coming on to the track haven, coming across the Anderson Bridge. He has got a little bit of traffic in front of him. Now coming through turn 12 and then across the Anderson Bridge into the hairpin at turn 13. And again, he has got a little bit of traffic in front of him. Off to the left-hand side there is one of the, I think, Aston Martins, as we now come across in towards turn 14. And again, through the end of the middle sector, not too bad. Nico has joined the session. Hopefully, he might actually scrape within the top 10. Who knows? We've now come through 16 and 17 on board with Vasilo and the Italian outfit of OP. Of course, second in the constructor standings. Can they take the fight to VSR tonight? All depends on if Vasilo can get a very, very good lap in. It's looked clean so far. Through 20, and then through 21, and then in towards the final corners of 22 and 23. So we've now come through the final corners and absolutely flies it through 22 and 23. Vasilo to the line, and he goes second with a 34.4, and that is how you lay down that marker.
Wow. I wonder where he could find that 8,000th of a second that he would have needed to put himself on provisional pole. Duncan's invalidated. Duncan has invalidated in the first sector, so he's not going to be improving on his provisional pole time. Gill's not up on his time, though, in the Haas. He's coming towards the end of the lap, and now he's just invalidated. So a lot of drivers throwing it away at the end of the session. At the moment, it kind of looks like it's down to Mitchie and Will LG to put the hammer down against Duncan. No one else at the moment seems to be able to put a lap in.
Yeah, Use has come through the end of the first sector as well. I think it was purple through the first sector, so Use on a quick lap through the first sector. We'll run above them shortly, but Will LG now coming through the final couple of corners. Duncan, Facilo, Giel currently our top three. Is Will going to feature in this? Coming through the final corners of 22 and 23, now runs to the line, and he goes quickest with Will. Goes quickest, TF10 on top of the minute. Duncan is invalidated, will not be improving. Right on board with Mitchie. He's furthest on ahead of Houston. I think actually that the next two cars will probably come across the line on a on a valid lap as I choke on a fly. As now Mitchie comes through. He's on 3 lap hold, soft compound tyres. Now through 16, now through 17. Will LG out on top though. Duncan in second, Vasilo in third. And look at how close this qualifying session is. Jensen has retired back into the pit lane. But Mitchie now for TTG. Can he try and steal the party for the Mercedes boys, who now come through 21, and then out through the final corner as Cornet goes quickest for Shazoo. Very good lap from him. Mitchie now comes to the line, and he goes 6th. What's Hughes doing? He's now coming through the final corner. The Dutchman, the Flying Dutchman of PS4 comes across the line, and he goes quickest. Wow. And look at that for a lap time at 33.9. Lays the hammer down, and if you can't smell what Eustace cooking, nobody can.
Wow. What a lap time. Lewis just crossed the line. He's gone P8 for team mentalism, but it was going to be a close qualifying session. We had 5 drivers in the 34.4s, and then Eustace come in and gone half a second quicker than the field on 2 lap old tyres. That's an incredible lap time for the Aston Martin. You mentioned it earlier on that you're surprised that we've not seen anyone in the high 33s. And we weren't going to see it up until Eustace just completely blowing them out of the water. I'm sorry to all the people in the chat that were surprised by Will LG's time, but that is, yeah, Eustace just come in and broken everyone's dreams. That is an incredible lap time.
I think, honestly, we've just seen Formula 1 and Formula 1.5 at the end of qualifying. It is Eustace on top. Cornet in second, Will LG in third. Great lap time, I've got to say, from Cornet. Getting ahead of Will by about 9,000ths of a second. And the same gap, actually, is between Duncan, Facilo and Giel for 4th, 5th and 6th. And those guys are separated by 700ths of a second for 2nd down to 6th. That's how close qualifying is. And actually counting in, up down to Nico, who's eventually ended up in P14. All the way down from Cornet to Nico is covered by about 5/10ths of a second, so it's not bad at all. And if you include Fabian Dutch Missile, it's about 7/10ths of a second, so very close qualifying. However, blown completely out of the water by Use, out on top of 33.9. Esports level qualifying there from Use.
I think it's up there. Definitely. It's definitely up there. I mean, that is an incredible time. I can't get over how quick that was. I was expecting that kind of lap time from Duncan. We didn't see the best from Duncan. Unfortunately, he invalidated right at the start of his run, so we maybe didn't quite see the best from him, but my word, what a lap from used to go into provisional pole position. That has laid some hammer down for this race. Some of these drivers on the obviously Cornet alongside him on the front row, and then Will LG as well, they've got to get past him as quickly as possible, because with that pace, he's just going to drive away from the field.
Yeah, 3 Dutchmen in the first 4 positions as well. I think I called Duncan German. He's actually not. He's Dutch. Sorry about that. Eustolo out on top. Cornet in second. Will LG in third with Duncan in fourth. Facilo in fifth. Giel in sixth. Mitchie in seventh with Gustav in eighth. Kazizel in ninth. And Louis rounding off the top 10. Namsko there in 11th with Assi in 12th. Johan in 13th. About 9/10ths of a second. 9/10ths of a second separating the top 13. Nico there in 14th. Fabi, Dutch Missile, Jensen didn't really get a representative lap time in. Modesto and obviously Isma getting no lap times in because of qualifying bans, and Leo not getting a qualifying lap in either, down there in 19th position for TF10. Let us run you through then the track introduction and take you through, before the formation lap, what we can expect from the Singapore Grand Prix. Welcome back, everyone, to the PSGL Esports Cup event. We are here for round 4 of the championship as we take in the Marina Bay Street Circuit for the Singapore Grand Prix here in Singapore City. And we now, of course, with the qualifying session over, we can now really delve into the track in question. 5 kilometres in length, 3.1 miles, 23 turns awaiting the guys out on track. 3D restaurants, 1 down in towards turn 1, 1 down in towards turn 7 at Memorial Corner, and 1 in towards turn number 14. Bit of elevation change on the downhill slope from 13 into 14 as well. The 3 compound tyres, of course, in question, the C5, C4 and C3 compound tyre. The softs being the longer, the fastest, mediums being the balance, and hards being the longest lasting compound tyre. And Aiden, obviously, as we transfer from the formation lap into the end, from qualifying, I should say, into the end of the formation, into the start of the formation lap. I really can't get my words out tonight. It is very hot sitting beside this radiator. But looking at that qualifying session, obviously Eustace pulled out on top, and to remind everyone of the standings coming into tonight as well, they are up on the left-hand side of your screen right now with VSR obviously leading Beust with an absolute stunning lap. I can't put into words how good that lap was.
Yeah, I honestly can't as well. I would like an onboard from you. Zeus, if you ever watch this stream back, please can you send me an onboard of that lap? That was incredible. I'd like to learn from it. That was a brilliant lap time to go half a second clear at this field. And we mentioned it a couple of times in qualifying around Singapore. To get the perfect lap in, you've got to make sure your tyres don't overheat, you're in the zone, and you nail every single corner. I think you managed to do just that. If you could find any more time in that lap, I'd be astonished that you could. But yeah, brilliant stuff. And another thing we've got to focus on now for this race, of course, the strategy is outside the top 10. And I think it's fair to say that it's quite a surprise maybe outside of the top 10 with how many people have gone for a certain set of tyres.
Yeah, let's have a look at the strategies that everyone is on. A majority of them are actually going, as you say, for that set of hard compound tyres. Namsco, Dutch Missile and Isma all go for that set of medium compound tyres. Asi, Johan, Nico, Fabi, Jensen, Modesto and Leo are all going for a set of hard compound tyres. And you mentioned earlier on, Aiden, set of softs around here. 4 or 5 laps they're going to last, and let's predict the top strategy. Lap 5 to 8, the AWS graphics actually say. That is not true whatsoever. Used obviously will be struggling on that set of soft compound tyres after setting that 33.9, but everyone else is on that set of soft compound tyres. So be looking for the likes of Namskull, the likes of Asi, on that alternate strategy to try and make their way through the field early.
Yeah, definitely. Namsco here has got a massive opportunity in 11th place. No one around him on the medium compound tyres, everyone in front on the softs. We're likely going to see them go 5 laps, maybe no further. We might see a few drivers try and extend the stint, but with the pace fall off in the soft compound tyres just means that it's not really worth it. You lose the track position and you can't gain the track position back because we know it's so difficult to overtake. So once all the soft runners are in and Namsco's had a clean start, he'll most likely be leading the race. And if he is leading the race, he's got a massive opportunity. He's got a window of about maybe 10 or so laps to just try and pull away. Ooh. As that was Louis that's just spun there, coming out of turn 18, I believe. But yeah, Namsco's got a massive opportunity here that he could be in the lead by the end of lap 6 or 7, and he needs to use that time to try and pull a gap to the rest of the hard runners and try and infringe on the runners on the regular strategy.
Yeah, he could be, to be honest. Safety cars, however, are at a premium. Early bits of contact around here at Singapore are at a premium as well. So hopefully everyone is going to keep it clean out on track. And Aiden, I'm going to come across to you. You know what's coming. Who's your top 3?
Used, I think, is going to win this race. There's no way he isn't going to win this race. I might have jinxed him there. Cornet for 2nd place, and I'm going to go for Namsco 3rd. I think that old strategy might work for him.
I thought you were going to go for Will there and be an absolute boring person for a top 3. But sadly not. We are getting the 5 red lights out, though, here in Singapore. Round 4 of the championship about to begin for the PSGL and VRT Esports Cup event, as Nico has obviously started way ahead of everyone. Lights out and away we go. Used on top, Cornet in 2nd. Gil gets a very good start as well. He could go 3 wide down in towards turn 1, and actually Will G outgunned by Duncan. Trying to go on the inside line in towards turn 2. Now through turn 3, and it is actually Used who does lead this way. Cornet in 2nd, Duncan in 3rd. A little bit of contact further down the field. Will's actually being done out by Facilo, who's got a really good start. Gil now side by side as well with Gustav. Louis, nearly bit of contact actually between the Williams and the AlphaTauri there. Now Louis right on the back of the AlphaTauri, and Kazizel getting in this as as well. Looks like Namsko has not made any positions off the start either. Mitchie does it down the inside line of Will, gets the move done, and now Louis is fighting still with Gustav, and there's a little bit of Constantino effect. There's 3 wide through turn 8, which I've never seen ever before, and it's Louis that's the one that has really hurt as a result of that. Down into P10 he goes at the minute. Obviously Hughes leading the way, Cornet in second, Duncan in third, Nico's got obviously an AI, so ignore that in the minute. He's going to drop down all the way through the field, but a hectic first half a lap.
Really hectic first part of the lap, and I noticed as well coming out of turn 3, Duncan and Will did make a very small amount of contact. Will hit the wall, so I think he might have some minute front wing damage, and that could explain his drop through the field in this early phase of the race, down to a net P7 already, having qualified at the front of the field. Michi Fusilo is past as well, so yeah, he's now got Kasiza right behind, and further back down the field as well, Isma from last on the grid is already up to 14th. He's had a stellar start.
He has had a stellar start. Everyone has lost positions actually compared to Isma, who's there in P14. Will, I think, has got side pod damage on the right side, if I'm not mistaken. That is why he's struggling in the car, but he has actually picked up the speed now. He's getting onto the back of Gil, obviously helping as a result of the dirty air around team in Singapore. He's leading the way though onto lap 2. Cornet in second, Duncan in third, Fasilo in fourth, Michi in fifth, Gil in sixth, Will LG in seventh, Kazizel in eighth, Louis in ninth, Gustav in 10th. You can ignore the timing screens to the left-hand side. Namsko now going through on Nico, obviously. Nico's going to be right down the back of the field. Jensen has retired out of the session, and Leo is into the pit lane as well. So I wonder if there's a little bit of contact between them both further on. Predicted pit stop strategy as a weird mechanic gets in the way there. Leo now coming out of the pit lane on a set of medium compounded tyres, but Jensen retiring this early on. Very disappointing, otherwise he could have picked up a point for his team.
Yeah, he could have retired in the pit lane, seemingly without too much damage, so that's a real shame as Isma and Yon now go side by side, down towards turn 7, around the outside of turn 8. Isma kind of forcing the Alpine across the curb on the inside. Lucky that Yon didn't get any damage from that, they get away with it, but Isma from that qualifying ban is marching his way through the field. He's trying to get ahead of those hard runners as quickly as he possibly can. He has passed all of the hard runners already. That's an incredible start to the race for Isma. Aggressive, but he's up now right behind Namsko and has put himself in a really good position for this race. At the start of this race though, those on the hards, early laps, they're really struggling at the moment. They just can't keep pace with the drivers in front.
Yeah, Johan is the one that's obviously leading that hard runner trend. Obviously, we'll lap 2 out of 31, so DRS is going to be enabled next time around down into Raffles Boulevard and down into Memorial Corner. Corner's trying to apply a bit of pressure to use that gap behind him as well. It's not 0.8 of a second to Duncan. It's more like a second as actually he nearly loses it into the wall coming out of the grandstand at 18 and 19. Good recovery there by the Dutchman, and Duncan just about holds on to the DRS zone of Corner. It's about 0.9 of a second as he comes out the final corner. Hughes leading the line from Cornet in second. It's 0.8 of a second between himself and Duncan for third. Fasilo there in fourth, and Cornet, as a result of that Duncan mistake, set the fastest lap of the race, and it looks as almost safe. The top 3 are now just partly beginning to get away from Fasilo. Did I see rain out on track as well? No, that's just my eyesight.
Just the outside going a little bit dodgy, not quite. That would really spice things up. But yeah, actually the first driver to lose DRS is Michi in 5th place in that Mercedes. He can't quite keep with Fusilo. Fusilo's just hanging on to the DRS range of Duncan in front. But yeah, the top 4 breaking away just a little bit now. Michi becoming a little bit detached in 5th position, but he's not under pressure from the drivers behind. Gil is not all over the back of him. Same for Will LG as well. Was further down as he gets the move on Nyon. And Fabi, I think, trying to make the move as well down the inside. Around the outside now of turn 8. He gets through on the corner and
lovely
again
job.
for the yeah, lovely job, but for the second lap in a row, Yon gets overtaken around the outside of turn 8 and then into turn 9. Dutch missiles through, and now here comes Modesto down the inside for turn 10. That is the problem with Singapore. You're offline for one corner and you're slow. You can get swamped, drive the drivers behind, and in the space of 4 corners, you lost 4 places.
Yeah, Johan disappointed, I think, from his perspective. Missile was literally like a missile down his inside line, and Modesto obviously followed through as a result of that out of turn 9 as well. So obviously, Johan has lost 4 positions, and look, he's not really keeping with the pace. Maybe a little bit of underlying damage, maybe all those tyres are not warming up. Something is going wrong at the minute for Johan. He just seems to be really struggling as he actually catches a bit of a slide coming out of turn 14. Hughes, however, leading the way. Cornet in second, Duncan in third, back on board with the leaders. And Hughes just made a slight mistake there, coming through the underpass of 20 and 21. Cornet again, 0.6 of a second behind. Everyone is going to be in a DRS train, I think, at this stage in the race. So that means, and I think Michi is into the pit lane. Yeah, TTG Michi into the pit lane on that set of soft compounded tyres. I think he's going to go for a set of hards toward the end of the race. 27 laps on a set of hards is absolutely the best strategy to go on. And now Michi will come out of the pit lane. And I think he's going to be behind Nico's AI car, if I'm not mistaken, as Johan has also came into the pit lane as well. And there was some wing damage on that car.
Yeah, I'm not surprised the amount he was falling back, unfortunately. Yeah, some wing damage then is going to have to come in to replace that. So, yeah, Mitchie the first to pull the trigger. This is probably the earliest you can go and put on a set of hards and just about take them to the end of the race. They're not going to be fast at the end, but he will be able to get them in percentage-wise. There's a little bit of banging wheels a bit further down the field there. I don't know if that was Fabi and Azzy a bit further down the field having a bit of contact, and Dutch Missile trying to capitalise on that. One move we've missed is Isma's now past Namsco on the same tyre, so Isma's now ahead of the WR driver. From last on the grid, Isma is already 10th, and we're halfway through lap 4. We've only had one pit stop from all the drivers inside the top 10, so Isma's absolutely flying on those medium compound tyres. He's all over the back of Gustav. He could have a run here actually down in towards turn 14. It's going to look to the inside line. Can he brake late enough to make the move stick? He's really late on the brakes. That's close to the wall, and he's put Gustav in the wall in the process as well. That was a dive from a long way back. Gustav had nowhere to go around the outside. It was a bold move from Isma, but he's forced the ETH driver into the wall, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see a penalty for Isma in the stewards room after this race because of that.
Yeah, left side unplate damage as well for Gustav. It's going to create a whole different train. Fabi tries to dive down the inside line through the grandstand section. Luckily, they get through relatively unscathed. Ferrari makes a little bit of contact with Gustav as well, but they're both through. Will G is into the pit lane as well for TF10, so he is into the pit lane from 7th position. Now brings Isma and Namsco into 7th and 8th position. Nico, by the way, has rejoined the session, which is good to see. Hopefully, he'll be able to retake control of his car. Will Gino into the pit lane. Louis into the pit. Gustav, of course, after that damage into the pit. And look at the gap all of a sudden between the leaders as well. Used now a second clear of Cornet. Cornet seems to be struggling. He's out of DRS zone this time around. Duncan trying to gain, but he's not going to gain close enough down in towards Memorial Corner at turn 7. Used leading the way, Cornet in second, Duncan in third. Further down the field, it is a little bit higgledy-piggledy, I've got to say. Asi, Fabi and Dutch Missile all embracing the battle. I've got to be honest, Modesto's coming through the field quite nicely. He's been a bit of an underdog so far in this race. He's there in 12th position. Obviously, guys have pitted around him, and Modesto now, he can carry those tyres. If he's got good tyre wear, he could probably carry those tyres, 24, 25 laps to go on just a soft compound tyre?
He definitely could, or we could run about 20 laps and then put the mediums on, and they could be maybe a more solid choice towards the end of the race. He's got multiple strategies ahead of him. I mean, he could stay out all the way to the end of the race and hope for a safety car. That could work into his favour as well. So many different options, and the good thing for him as well is that all those on the same strategy as him aren't all like miles up the road on the hards. They're in and around him. As he the lead man on the hards in 9th at the moment. It's only a couple of seconds up the road as Isma's made another move into turn 14. A lot cleaner this time around though. He's got past Kissizzle and he's up into 6th place.
Yeah, lovely move by Isma, roll on ball with that, down the hill, in towards turn 14, got the job done, and Kissizzle, I think, is probably going to come into the pit lane this time around. He clips the wall, actually, on the left side of his car, the left rear of his car. Everyone now coming through, and everyone continuing on as well, and Kissizzle, as I rightfully said, and probably my first rightful prediction of the night, he is into the pit lane. On to lap 6 we go. Usually leading the way, Cornet in second, Duncan in third. As I mentioned, the top 3 putting the weight. Fasila was there, he's there on sufferance. They're in 4th position, 9 tenths behind Duncan. Duncan, however, looks like he's trying to apply a bit of pressure now to Cornet. Cornet, of course, out of that DRS zone, and now Duncan can try with the Dutchman on the back of him, and actually it's a Dutch 1-2-3, I've just realised as well, with Cornet being in 2nd position, Duncan there in 3rd, but again, not quite close enough down in towards Memorial Corner. Further down the field as well, Fabi looks like he's going to attack Asi down in towards Memorial Corner. Dutch Missile could follow through on this as well, and Fabi doesn't want to go for the move down the inside on the German. Force that wider now, Dutch Missile could get a run in towards turn 8. No, I think they're being quite sensible, to be honest. They're just waiting in behind each other.
Yeah, smart at the moment. It's a long race, and of course we've already seen a bold overtake can not work out for you. So yeah, playing the smart game in that sense. One thing I've noticed with the leaders as well, Hughes leads, he's on 50% ERS. Cornet has pretty much wasted all of his ERS in the opening 5 laps of this race trying to keep up. That could really bite him later on in the race. If Hughes does continue to pull away, Cornet with no ERS around this track, and with drivers like Duncan and Fusillo right behind with much more, it's just going to get swamped in a straight line. It's going to have absolutely no straight line speed, especially with the high downforce we run here. And all of these guys now, Cornet, really struggling. Cornet, Duncan and Fusillo as well are all being caught by Gil, interestingly. Gil, not in DRS range, has been nearly half a second faster on this lap. So him in the Haas at the moment, a little bit further down, he's got better tyre wear it seems, and actually he's pitted before all of them, so he's trying to get the undercut on the 3 drivers in front, and with Cornet driving as slow as he is at the moment, that could work as Duncan down the inside to turn 1, he doesn't want to sit behind him anymore, he's up into 2nd place, and for the umpteenth millionth time this season, it's a VSR 1-2.
It is a VSR 1-2. Some things never change here in the PSGL Esports Cup event. He's leading the way, Duncan in second. Cornet's tyres, I'm actually surprised. He's got an actual I couldn't even get my words out tonight, honestly. Fusilo's on the back of him. Cornet, I'm surprised actually he didn't come into the pit lane that time around. Now Fusilo was going to take full advantage of that down the inside line. The OP man goes, and he's thrown he's into P3 in the white Red Bull, which I'll never get used to saying in commentary. Fusilo through, and he's into P3. Cornet just seems to be struggling. Fabi is side by side with Asi down in toward Memorial Corner as well. And we saw this last time around. Fabi wasn't close enough, and now he's going to try and get the switchback coming through turn 8. Can he get the move done? The Mercedes on the back of the AlphaTauri. No, Asi stays as it is. Fabi, though, he looks very quick on that sort of hard compound tyres, and I think sooner rather than later, he's probably going to get Asi, and I would say down in towards turn 14 this lap.
Yeah, wouldn't be shocked. He's got to get the move done now, hasn't he? Because all those on the medium runners and all that are just starting to pull away, and Asi, definitely the slower at the moment, is starting to hold this queue of cars up just a little bit. Further down, after his pit stop, by the way, that undercut strategy from Gil is not going to work because he's come out of the pit lane behind Mitchie and Will G. They both jumped him. So despite Gil being faster than Duncan Fusilo and Cornet, he's then been slower than Mitchie and Will on their first laps on the hards, have been jumped by the pair of them. So he's now dropped down a couple of places, and behind him is Kazizzle, and Kazizzle strikes me as an interesting one here. He's put the medium compound tyres on after his pit stop. If he gets those to the end of the race, that is an absolute miracle if he gets those mediums to the end of the race. So it's going to be interesting to see what his strategy is. He's now got to hope that he can get that car through this DRS train in front, and look at that, he's just pushing Gil through the corners at the moment. So he's got to get these moves done on those mediums now while they're still fresh, and then hopefully hold these drivers up a little bit later on in the race.
Yeah, Fusilo and Cornet, by the way, are into the pit lane as well on a set of medium compound tyres, and look where they're coming out of. They're coming out just about ahead of this pack of cars. Mitchie, Will G, now coming through turn 1, and it's going to be side by side actually between them both, and now Mitchie and Fusilo side by side in towards turn 3, and just about gets the move done. So Mitchie is behind on Fusilo. Fusilo on that set of medium compound tyres, very interesting, and strikes me as if he's going to get to the end of the race on that set of mediums. Asi and Fabi are having a fight as well, still on board with Mitchie. He's going to try and reclaim that position back off Fusilo, not going to get the move done, and Kazizzle on the back, and we're not going to get the move done either with any of them at all. And Kazizzle all over the back of Gil, actually drives it down the inside line in towards turn 8. Can he get the move done? Forces the issue, now the outside of turn 9, and fresher tyres absolutely prevail off, and Kazizzle is through, and he's into P14. Nico obviously losing position, and Fabi has lost a position as well. I think he got caught on the curb coming across the Anderson Bridge, and Modesto now through, and he's into P7.
I was just riding with Fabi actually. He tried that move at turn 7 again. He tried it around the outside.
Somebody cut in. Mitchie's down the inside line, and Nico trying to get the move done. Nico, by the way, is rejoining the session, which is good. Doesn't get the move done. You can continue on.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually is really great for OP that Nico's back in the lobby, because it's allowing Fusilo to drop the rest of these guys on a similar pit window to him. So Cornet's stuck in the pack, and Fusilo's managed to jump the pack and clear off into the distance. So that's worked nicely. Fabi, by the way, he was trying to hang it around the outside of turn 8 on Asi. He made contact and was into the wall, and I think he's broken a part of his front wing. He stayed out on the track. It's not too bad damage, but at this point in the race, it's kind of put pay to what could have been a good race, unfortunately, for the Mercedes driver. Yeah,
Fabi down in P8. Asi's picked up the first 3-second time penalty of the night, so he's clearly been track limit extended. Track limits extended. I really can't speak tonight, can I? Nico's through and he's into P10 still. Mitchie is on the back of him. But that strategy again strikes me. Cornet now on fresh set of medium compound tyres ahead of his teammate Kazizzle, and Chazoo boys are going to be scoring big points here tonight in terms of this strategy. However, Houston Duncan are going a few laps extra on that sort of soft compound tyres. Interesting to see what they play out in later on in this race. As now Cornet right on the back of Will LG, and Will LG moves across him, but now Cornet tries to see that all the way around the outside, potentially turning a negative into a positive. Will really doesn't want to give up that, but he has to, because Cornet is doing, he's into P12. Smart driving by Cornet, I've got to say there. Will, at every cost, try not to let Cornet through there. Obviously, the mediums were going to pay to his chances, and Cornet threw into P12. Smart driving that by the Shazoo man. He's into P12.
Yeah, smart driving, but that was almost an airplane crash or something. Yeah. That was so close to being a massive accident. As there you go, Will G again, late defence there on Kazizzle. Kazizzle just backs out of it, but he's going to get a run maybe towards 14. I don't think he's close enough. The braking zone's not deep enough, unfortunately. Cornet, though, going for the move on Mitchie, thinking about around the outside. He's going to switch back here towards 15 and 16. Beautiful move, and he's through when he's up into 11th place. So Cornet up now into 11th position. But remember, Fusilo and Cornet came into the pit lane line astern. Fusilo's already 5 seconds up the road. This has paid horribly for Cornet at this point in the race. Eustace coming to the pit lane. Where's he going to come back out onto the track in this race? He could be behind Fusillo, you know. Fusillo could jump both the VSR drivers here. He has. Easily. He's easily jumped him. Nowhere near. 38.4 from Fusillo. What a lap time. Here comes Eustace out of the pit lane then. He's only just going to be ahead of this Nico-Cornet battle. Cornet's got the move done on Nico down in towards turn 1. Eustace only just in front of Cornet coming out of the pit lane. But Fusillo's now comfortably in the net lead of this race.
Unbelievable, yeah, Cornet on the back of Eustace, but now Eustace 5 seconds behind Fusillo, and the undercut has absolutely worked in OP's favour. However, with OP, Nico, of course, is still going to come into the pit lane because he's on that set of hard components tyres still. He could come in for a set of softs later on in this race. Deal side by side with his former VRT teammate. How weird is that to say? Well, G now trying to go all the way around the outside of Gil. They were teammates back in Baku, and now Will, for TF10, gets past in the WR man, and Louis nearly came steaming down the inside line there as well for Mentalism. And now Gil tries to switch to the outside line. Will really, really hard in his defence and manages to keep it down towards the Singapore Sling. But he is stripping on those tyres. Gil looks fresher in terms of that, and Louis looks like he's warmed up those tyres as well to an absolute good effect. However, lead of the race, by the way, Duncan, now relatively under pressure from the back of Isma. I thought actually that Duncan had right side end plate damage, but again, my eyesight clearly going. He is going to come into the pit lane this time around, and now promotes Isma into the lead of the race, and Isma could be a big one to watch out for on an alternate strategy later on in this race.
Started last on the grid, by the way. Just to remind everybody that maybe wasn't here for the start of this stream, last on the grid now leads the race at the start of lap 11. I'm not going to lie, I'm very confused by the strategy from VSR. I understand they obviously want to get the medium tyres to the end of the race, but they've cost themselves so much track position in doing so. Eustace is only one car behind Fusillo, but he's 5 seconds behind. Duncan comes out of the pit lane. He's behind Eustace, he's back behind Cornet. Nico's going to come through, Mitch is going to come through, and Kazizel as well. And Will LG. Is Gil going to come through as well? Gil's going to be around the outside, not quite, but Duncan, from a net second place on the track, is now down. What is that? That's 7 places.
Yeah.
Is that net? That's six places he's lost in the pit lane. That just doesn't seem worth it.
It doesn't seem worth it, to be honest. It is a questionable strategy. Are they expecting rain maybe later on in the race? Who knows? Kazizel, by the way, down the inside line, and Mitchie tries to get the move done. Nico got caught on the outside as well, and now Kazizel on the warmer tyres goes all the way around the outside of turn 8. Brilliant move as we cut out of the trees. Kazizel is through, and he's into P9. Lovely stuff there around the outside of the TTG man through turn 8. Not many times you see a move around the outside of turn 8 perform so cleanly as well. The Shazoo man, the Shazoo boys, I should say, mean absolute business. Cornet and Kazizel, they're 7th and 9th currently out on track, with Mitchie just looking like maybe an ordinary driver out for a Sunday drive at this stage, because there's a waltzing around the outside of him.
Yeah, waltzing around the outside, like you say, the mediums at this point in the race definitely look like the faster tyre. I just worry about these drivers on the mediums, how bad these medium tyres are going to be by the end of the stint. We saw the pace drop off in the softs, and Duncan only pitted a lap later than Eustace, and he's ended up 5 places behind him on the track, and nearly about 7 seconds behind his teammate, it seems. So it's going to be difficult, really, to see how these mediums last throughout the race. Eustace in the best position. Eustace and Duncan are in the best position, but they've cost themselves track position. You can see Duncan all over the back of Will LG now, and Mitchie as well, just in front. He's got to get these moves done quickly, because if he stays behind these guys for too long, the pace difference between the mediums and the hards is just going to decrease as the race goes on, and the advantage is just going to swing more in the favour of those on the hards.
Yeah, Isma leading the way, Namsco in second, Modesto in third if you are just tuning in. Only on lap 12 and 31, I feel like we've been commentating for an hour already around even Singapore, but Isma leading the way, Namsco in second, Duncan into the back of Will coming through turn 5. Lucky not to pick up any damage there, but Duncan really means business now on the back of the Brit. And now Will, is he going to be hard in his defence? Not as hard as what he was earlier on, but now Duncan dives it down the inside line. The VSR man outguns the McLaren, and he's through, and he's into P11. He was off track slightly there, but Duncan is through, and he's into P11. Now I think into net P5. Good move that by Duncan. He needed to do that.
Yeah, he definitely needed to get the moves done. He has to get through this field as quickly as he can. Gustav now, the next driver with a time penalty, down in 17th position at the moment. But yeah, Duncan has to get these moves done now. We can't wait around. It's just going to cost him so much time later on if he does. So yeah, got to get them done. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for Mitchie here, looking almost pushing him through turn 13. Comes out of the corner onto the back straight then. Look at that straight line speed for the Aston Martin. Is going to duck to the inside line for turn 13. Takes a tight line through the corner. Mitch is going to try and hold it around the outside, but he's just not going to get the traction off the corner. And Duncan up into P10 on the road, and that I think is a net P. Yeah, that is a net P5 now in this race for Duncan. He's got Kazizel, Cornet, Use, and Fusillo in front. Fusillo now is in a bit of a hot spot because he was 5 seconds up the road from Muse. He's now stuck behind the Dutch missile, and that gap's been halved.
The gap has been halved, and Fusillo actually is going to get and put Dutch Missile in the way of Use. So Fusillo through, down into turn 1, gets the move done, he's into 4th position. Dutch Missile there in 5th. But Use, look at that gap, it's 2.5 seconds, as you say. He's been eaten into that advantage purely because those tyres are carrying him there. And maybe Fusillo has got a little bit of damage that we haven't spotted. And look at the time now, 2 seconds the gap. Use is absolutely pulling this advantage in. And look, they're in the same camera shot now, so Fusillo is under pressure. I really wonder if he's got a little bit of damage here for Fusillo. Maybe on the left side he has. I think he's got a left side end plate missing, if I'm not mistaken, or certainly a winglet on that left side end plate, and that is why he might be just struggling slightly. Otherwise, it's just the tyres, and they're not working for him.
I don't know, I think it might be the tyres, and the fact he's not got any ERS either. He just got stuck behind the Dutch missile. It was too difficult for him to overtake him. It took him too long. It took him a lap to get past the Ferrari. Use has now caught the Ferrari, and it looks like he's going to get past the Ferrari almost immediately here, down towards turn 14. He's wasting no time whatsoever. Look at that, the difference. Fusillo's stuck behind him for a lap. Use wastes no time and goes clean around the outside. He's through on the Ferrari already. The gap's 1.7, and he's somewhat dragging Cornet with him as well. Cornet back into this race in a net 3rd position. He's 6 seconds clear of his teammate and only just behind this battle for the lead. So they're all starting to close up in this top 3 at the moment, and now Fusillo is stuck behind Modesto, who's in 3rd place on those hard compound tyres. Interestingly, the only man that started on the hard compound tyres that's still going on them, apart from Nico of course, but Nico wasn't in the lobby for the first few laps of this race. So Modesto is seemingly the only one that's kept those hard tyres going without putting the car on the wall.
Yeah, Fusillo's doing a good job, I've got to say. Modesto's obviously going to try and hold them up, and look at that gap. Use is now 1.1, 1 second, and now pretty much 9/10 away as he comes through turn 3, and Use is in within the DRS range on Fusillo, and it looks like it's going to be an age-old battle between Fusillo and Use for the win. Use just likes in a different league at this stage, and now Fusillo is going to put Modesto in his way if he can. Now around the outside on the kink of 6, now down towards the Memorial corner at 7. He does put him in the way, and Fusillo's through, and he's into P3, but now Use is on the back of Modesto, and Cornet is crucially through on Dutch Missile as well, and Duncan is going to try and go all the way around the outside on Kazizel. Kazizel, of course, the young and up-and-coming Starfish Zoo, against Duncan, the well-known Dutchman down the inside line for VSR. The Aston Martin and the Williams still fight side by side. Shazoo against VSR through turn 9. Duncan is still not giving this up. Kazizel in the wall! Kazizel in the wall! Oversteers through turn 9 in the wall. That could have been a really good battle. We've been robbed there. But Duncan is through inevitably, and he's into P8. Kazizel, I think, just applied a bit too much more throttle. No front wing on that car, and really ruined what could have been a really good race. And that 3-second time penalty needs removing for sure.
That is such a shame for Kazizel. Like I said, a really strong race for both Suzuki drivers, and yeah, just a tight line through turn 9, keeping the gap there for Duncan. Just put the power down too early, like I said, and just spun the car all on his own. What a shame for Kazizel. That's ruined his race. He needs a safety car to bring himself back in, but that is the challenge of Singapore. One wrong move and it's game over, and Kazizel's already proved that now with that spin and now massive damage to the front of his car. That's released Duncan as well. Duncan can now chase after Cornet, Just and Fusillo for the lead of this race. He's passed Nico a while ago and he's already nearly 4 seconds clear, and Mitchie's stuck behind. So Duncan now no longer under pressure from those hard compound runners. He's now clear and up front and ready to challenge for the race win again.
Yeah, and look at Use on the back of Modesto. I thought he was going to get the move done in towards turn 5, but it is going to be down in towards Memorial corner at 7. He has got the DRS still, but look at that. Use uses up the ERS. He's got 33% remaining. Doesn't even need to use it up the entirety of the straight, and Use is through, and he's into P4. Modesto just says, you know what, I'm not getting involved in this whatsoever. I'll back off before the corner comes, and Use is through, and he's into P4 out on track. And now, Fusillo versus Use for the race win, it seems, at this moment in time. But you remember Singapore, anything can happen around here at Singapore. Isma still leading the way, Namsco in second. And to be honest, those two are actually holding their own. We've got to go fight further down the field as well. Will LG and Giel. I think Giel tried to go all the way around the outside of the McLaren. The McLaren still in P11. Giel there in P12 as well. But Use, again, on the back of Fusillo. Another 3-second penalty picked up by Assi. George is, by the way, in the comment section saying, why there was no safety car? Yeah, I totally agree. Why was there no safety car, Mr. Aiden Carter? Have you got safety car on?
It is on, definitely. The safety car is on, I can confirm that. But yeah, I think the fact that he hadn't retired from the race, I think, has somewhat saved that from being a safety car just to agree on the track, and they've just gotten away with it in that sense. So we'll wait and see. I think the fact that Kazizel was still going in this race has somewhat saved him. I'll tell you one thing in this race you've got to look out for. Isma obviously still leading in this race. We're on to lap 16 of this race. He leads comfortably over Namsko on the same strategy. Considering Namsko started 11th and Isma started last, the fact that Isma is now 7 seconds clear of him on the same strategy.
He's down the inside on Facilo, gets the move done in towards turn 1, and Use is turning into P3. You can continue on.
Yeah, net race lead then for Use, but yeah, Isma, like I was saying, now 7 seconds clear of Namsko on the same strategy, starting 9 places behind him. Nico, further down the field, is doing a massive job for Isma here. Isma could come out right in the thick of this battle that's going on for 9th place. Nico, of course, still yet to pit in this race. Isma's going to be on much fresher tyres than the drivers around him. It's not out of the question yet that Isma could drive from the back of the field into a top 5 position in this race, as Duncan, the other VSR driver, gets another move done. He's past the Dutch Missile and up into 7th place, and you can look at the gap between him and Nico. Just a couple of laps ago it was 4 seconds. It's now over 7 seconds between Duncan and Nico. Those on the hards just haven't had the pace to work their way through the traffic.
They haven't, to be honest, and they've all stuck in as well in this DRS train. Leo, Louis, who pitted slightly earlier as well, they're on the back of this and they cannot go anywhere as a result because they're stuck in the dirty air, they're stuck in this DRS train, and nobody, unless they pick up a bit of damage, is really going to work for them, and they're not going to get through as a result of this. And Mitchie is trying to push Nico along to try and get a move on, but at the minute Mitchie is not going anywhere. His tyres have not came online at all. Will and Gil obviously fought a little bit early on as well, a couple of laps ago, and they've been fighting within this DRS train, and it all adds up at the end. Louis, Leo, and I mean Johan, he's on 11 lap all medium compound tyres, 4 seconds off the back of Leo, however. And if he's got the grip through the corners as compared to the tyres through on the straight, Johan could be on the back of that group very, very soon indeed, given that everyone is ingrained in a big old DRS train. Cornet as well, on the back of Modesto, 5th and 6th position at the minute. Cornet currently as I see rain out on track.
I think we do. Oh yeah, we do. Yeah, it is. Your eyes aren't deceiving you this time. It is raining. Wow, okay, so that has really shaken things up. Has that, as Eust is going to go for the move on Namsko now for 2nd position. Eust on Namsko gets 2nd position on the road, puts himself a car between himself and Fusillo. Are we really going to see Isma drive from the back of the field into race-winning contention because of this rain? That would be an incredible performance from Isma if he's managed to pull this one off. That is incredible. The rain, we've got to see now how quickly the rain comes down. Mitch has got past Nico, finally got the move done on the Red Bull, and the Red Bull's actually ended up spinning. I wonder if he was caught on the inside and there was just contact and he spun the car in the process, but he's around, and those hard tyres are going to be terrible in these cooler conditions. How quickly does the rain come down, and are the likes of Isma and News able to pit immediately, or do they have to go for another lap? The rain looks like it's coming down pretty heavy. I don't think we're far away from possibly intermediate conditions, because this all's now spun coming out of turn 3.
Yeah, because it'll spun, the mediums are not coming online at all, and now Isma and Hughes have got a big decision to make. Look at the track. It looks pretty wet indeed. The intermediates are going to be about a lap away, I've got to be honest. Isma now coming through. Is he going to pit in early? This is the decisive moment in this race. If Isma decides to pit now for a set of inters, that's exactly what he's going to do. Is now Isma is in. He can control the rest coming in and behind as well. Eusta's going to come in. Fasilo's going to come in. Everyone's just going to come in underneath this. The intermediate conditions are now here. And now the rain with 8... I did say... in Singapore, expect the unexpected, expect anything around here at Singapore, and now they're coming in for a green wall set of tyres, the intermediates, and of course, the intermediates out on track can determine this pit of the race, and Isma is now in the lead.
Wow. Isma from last on the grid is now in the lead. I tell you what, this qualifying ban has actually ended up working in FVR's favour, hasn't it? The DRS already disabled. We're all into proper intermediate conditions then. Isma comfortably in the lead of this race. And we know, it's difficult enough to overtake around Singapore in the dry. In the wet, it's nigh on impossible unless drivers are making mistakes. So, Houston's got to have some mega speed at the end of this race to try and pass Isma. But FVR, from starting 18th and 20th with no time in qualifying, now on 1st and 6th. What a performance this could be for FVR from the back of the field. Nico, by the way, stayed out on the hards. That's a horrible decision for the OP man. And look at that, he's just going to understeer almost into the wall. And Duncan, from 2.5 seconds back before the corner, is already passed before turn 6.
Yeah, mind you, I've never seen a track change this quickly in terms of the conditions. Look at the spray. That is being kicked off now the back of Namsco. I'm on board with Cornet, who's on the back, and Namsco is the one I want to come on board with as well, because he was on that set of medium compounded tyres. His strategy has worked to an absolute perfection, and he's now in P4 for WR, which is absolutely insane from Namsco. Gil, obviously down in 11th position, has been effective as a result. Nico is going to come into the pick then to put on that set of intermediate compounded tyre, but we'll have a look at what the position changes are. Isma, 19 positions gained. Modesto's gained 12. Namskull's gained 7. And Will LG, Dutch Missile, I should say, has gained 7. Nico's gained 6, along with Leo, who's gained 5. So big position gains with Cornet, dives it down the inside line, and Namskull in towards turn 14, tries to risk it, and now is he going to try and find the outside line in towards 15. The Williams and the Haskell down the inside line. Cornet gets the car stopped. Does he get the move done? Yes, what a move that is by Cornet. Through he goes, and he's into 4th, and now Modesto is going to try and risk it down the inside line. He realised that Namsco is a driving roadblock, and Modesto dives it down the inside line. All is fair in love and war, and Modesto's through and he's into P5, and that was crucial. Namsco just doesn't look like he's got the pace on these inters.
Yeah, now we get to see who's actually got maybe a wet setup on this car and whether that will help them in the race. Maybe they sacrifice qualifying in the early phases for these wet conditions. Cornet through up into 4th, great move, like I say, and it just keeps getting better for FER. Modesto up another place then into the top 5. Both FER drivers in the top 5. Remember, apart from TF10, who of course don't have any points, FER are at the bottom of the sheets at the moment in terms of points scored this season. This could be a massive race for them in this championship if they can get further up this field. Nico's finally into the pit lane for OP off of those hard compound tyres, but what could have been a great recovery from a lag out of the session earlier on has turned into a horror show, unfortunately, for the Red Bull man, and he's going to drop down into 17th position in this race. So that is him well down at the back of the field while his teammate's still running in a podium position. We're, well, about 2 laps into this intermediate stint, and Use has not taken a lot of time out of Ismo. It's about half a second a lap, just over half a second a lap at the moment. At the moment, though, with only about 13 laps to go in this race, Use is going to have a massive contact further down.
Will LG dives it down the inside on a Dutch Missile. I thought that was inevitably going to be contact. Somehow they've kept it clean and Dutch Missile's still an 8.
Yeah, just about got away with it. But yeah, some drivers, I think, recognising it's difficult to overtake in the intermediate conditions and trying any move they can. Dutch Missile was again just a sitting roadblock at the moment. Look how fast Will LG is behind him. Oh yeah, Dutch Missile, a big slide there. Is he going to go for it? 13 down the inside. There's not a lot of room there. That's a really tight turn for turn 13. Oh, it was worth the shot, but it was never quite going to work for Will LG through there. The gap's just too small and the corner's too tight. He wouldn't be able to get around the corner in time to get the acceleration on down the next straight.
Yeah, Will LG now still in P9. Duncan, by the way, got through a Namsco. He's through and he's into P6. He got the move cleanly done in towards 14, down in towards the end of the middle sector. So Duncan through and he's into P6. And that strategy for VSR, very questionable. But look at Use's pace compared to Max. Isma, I should say, out on track. 5 seconds the gap now, 4.9. And look at Use. He's absolutely delving into this gap. Clearly, he has got a quicker setup on than Isma out on track. And it's pretty much like the hare and the tortoise now. Can Isma hang on to the end of the race? Can he hang on by 5 seconds? Or is Used, the Flying Dutchman, here of the PSGL Esports Cup event, going to absolutely fly onto the back? Because it looks like Isma down the straight, certainly using a bit of deployment compared to Used, 48% compared to 62%. Isma currently has 15% more than Used in terms of the ERS, with Will LG as well on the back of Dutch Missile trying to get the move done once again.
Yeah, trying to get the move done. Can he get the run down through Raffles Boulevard, which is to get great traction out of turn 5? It's going to be, I think, another dive bomb move to try and get past the Ferrari, but the Ferrari is good in his defence. There's no way that he's going to be able to get that move done down the inside, is Will LG. He kind of needs to get this move done because he has that penalty. He could get up the track and drop these two and hold on to an 8th position. And there you go, down the inside of turn 8. He forces his way through. The Ferrari, though, still down the inside for turn 9. Has to brake early for the corner. Will LG nearly understeers cleanly into the wall, but he gets away with it. Will LG's got the move done, and now he can try and break these two drivers away from his penalty range.
I'm not sure if there was a bit of contact actually in all of that, to be honest, or if it was just a simple mistake with Dutch Missile. I think it was the latter, to be honest. And look at Dutch Missile. He's beginning to struggle now on those tyres, and Gil is all over the back of him as well. So Dutch Missile not coming online in terms of those inters. And remember, the intermediate compounded tyres can dispose of 25 litres of water, compared obviously to the wet, where it's not full wet conditions at the moment, where they can dispose of 75 to 80 litres of water off the surface of the track. Isma leading the way though. Houston said second, with Fasilo in third, Cornet in fourth, Modesto in fifth, Duncan in sixth. Having a look at the penalties as well, while we ride on board, and there's nothing really going on at this stage of the race. There were the 3-second penalties, quite a few of them. Will, LG, Louis, Mitchie, Leo, Johan, Gustav and Nico, all on 3 seconds. Kazizel and Nassi still continuing, I think, to pick up the points down in 18th and 19th. They've both got 6 seconds worth of penalties, but as I said earlier on, this track really knows no bounds in terms of the track limits, and that's what we've been finding out. I think Mitchie, however, on the back of Louis doesn't look like he's come online, the Frenchman, for team mentalism at the moment, and Mitchie looks like he's having a better second stint, obviously compared to his set of hards that he had earlier on.
Yeah, we saw him really struggle to pass people in the dry conditions. I wonder whether that's because he's gone for something that's more suited to the wet conditions, and now he's trying to get this move done on Louis and get through and pass. We'll have to wait and see. One thing to note, on that last lap, Isma only lost a couple of tenths to Use. Use didn't really close in on that previous lap that much on the Alfa Romeo, so he's somewhat responded in these last couple of laps as the Alfa Romeo driver. So the gap is still coming down, but not as quickly as it has been, as Use was a little wide there, coming through turn 13 as well. Further down the field, Mitchie and Leo going at it. Yeah, Leo trying to capitalise on Mitchie around the outside. He does slap the wall, does the McLaren man, but he's got the inside for turn 9. Is he going to get the move done? He is. Mitchie tries to hang it around the outside, but doesn't have the grip to do so. Leo up into 12, so it was Mitchie looking for a move, made the mistake, and he's been overtaken by the TF10 driver.
I think that was a bit like our battle in Brazil, to be honest, in LOEF2 coming through there. Leo is through and he's into P12, Mitchie there in P13. If you're wondering what happened in that battle, by the way, I had damage, and that's why I think I let Aiden through to obviously go on and score driver of the day. No love lost between us commentators. Isma leads the way, Houston second, Vasilo in third, Corday in fourth, and Modesto in fifth. Gil on the back of Dutch Missile. Will has absolutely pulled away. 2.5 seconds now the gap. He's got so much pace compared to Dutch Missile. And Dutch Missile, as I said earlier on, he's a bit like a rolling roadblock, like Namskull was earlier on. He was in 5th, now down to 7th, and Dutch Missile just seems to be holding up Gil, and Gil has so much more pace compared to Dutch Missile. Where on earth is he going to try and find the gap to try and get this move done for 9th?
It's got to be the middle part of the lap where there are the most corners. That's where they're going to struggle, really, isn't it? He's got to try and capitalise on maybe Dutch Missile making a mistake in these conditions. The interesting thing about these conditions, the rain came down very, very quickly, of course, and we switched to intermediates within, well, a half a lap. But since then, it's not really got much wetter. It's not really that wet. There's not a lot of spray coming off these. It does look like it's easing. There's not a lot of spray coming off these tyres. There's no standing water at all. So it's kind of had a short rain spurt, and then it's just kind of stopped really raining much harder. So kind of bizarre conditions for these drivers, in that the rain came down very quickly, and then it's not really come down much at all after that. So I wonder how these intermediates are going to hold on to that conditions. Whether the intermediates may be overheating a little bit for some of these drivers because of that will be interesting to see. Another battle to note as well, Cornet dropping off the back of the Fusillo and being caught by Modesto and Duncan now. So battle's just starting to brew for 4th position at the moment. Cornet in these conditions not quite having the pace of the drivers around him. And Will LG, continuing his charge, has broken that penalty range to Dutch Missile and is catching Namsco at a vast rate of knots. He's over a second a lap faster.
Do you remember that VSR strategy that we came on about as well earlier on? I think they're thinking that it's going to be dry towards the end of the race. And I think so, because look at the rain now. There's a yellow flag through sector 2 and 3. I think that's Assi just getting out of the way through the middle sector. Through the final sector, he's got a 5-second penalty for corner cutting. Is the strategy for VSR thinking that it's going to be dry? They're the quickest guys on a set of dry tyres on this grid. The rain has pretty much stopped out on track. And in fact, it has stopped out on track, I think, now. So yeah, the rain has now stopped. And we're going to get a scenario where, with 8 laps to go, it's going to be dry compounded tyres, I would say, within the next 2 laps or so. The track dries very quick around here at Singapore. This is what the strategy, I think, has been for the VSR boys all along. Houston Duncan, 2nd and 6th, thinking that it's gonna rain for a little bit, then dry up towards the end of the session. That's exactly what they've came into play. Used hasn't caught Isma, but on a different set of tyres, Used is going to be well quicker than Isma.
Yeah, you've got to say, in the regular dry conditions, Used is much faster than Isma at this point in the race. But of course, Isma's still in a massively amazing position to get a podium from this race, despite everything that's gone on so far for him tonight. That could be amazing for him. What bizarre conditions this is, isn't it? The rain came down so quickly and then almost immediately stopped. And now it's drying out again. We'll see who the first is to come in for the dry tyres. It's Fabi, actually. He's gone for a set of medium compound tyres, interestingly. I probably would have gone for softs at this point in the race. We saw obviously a lot of drivers go out at the start of their qualifying sessions on a set of medium tyres. Maybe this is why. Maybe they were saving a set of softs because they thought it was going to dry out by the end of the race and they'd need the softs at the very end of the race for the most speed they can in the dry conditions.
Yeah, there is a dry line forming through the track, but Fabi, I think, has gone on the wrong compounded tyre. I think a couple of laps too early here. Yeah, look at the time. He's losing the car as well. So Fabi obviously losing the time. It is not dry compounded tyres yet. So if you have got the stream and if you're engineering for anybody, it is not dry compounded tyres yet. And probably, when I say so, it is probably going to stop in terms of the spray coming off the tyres. And to be honest, I think it'll be this lap around where lap 24 out of 31, Isma leads the way, Houston second. This is where I think drivers are going to come in. Because look at how quick this track is beginning to dry coming through turn 2 and 3.
Yeah, it's really beginning to dry. I'm just on board with Fabi though. This track does look deceivingly wet at the moment. Fabi has got no grip at all. He's lost, well, 2.5 seconds in 2 corners to the drivers in front. He's actually now been overtaken by Kazizel. So at the moment, it's not working on those medium compound tyres. We're not there yet. It will get dry at some point. There's too long left in the race for it to not dry out, unless, of course, we have the same track conditions that we do have in Turkey in real life. But yeah, it's just deceivingly wet at the moment. It doesn't look wet at all. I mean, it looks like a bone-dry track at places, but I think just the darkness of the actual circuit itself is deceiving some drivers as to how dry it is. And so far, no one else has responded to Fabi coming in, and rightly so. Fabi's just losing time hand over fist at the moment.
Yeah, nobody's listening to VTech Jeff as well on the comments. In the commentary box here, i.e. me, it's me leading the way, Houston second, Vasilo in third. But now look at Hughes, 2.4 seconds. He's now beginning to pick up the pace and realises that Isma is now under pressure. And I thought Isma, did he have a puncture there on the front left? He's losing a lot of time, but he doesn't, luckily. But Isma now beginning to lose. And look at how dry, look at how wet the track is. Now coming through the middle sector, now through the final sector, look at how the track is wettening in the final sector compared to other parts of the lap, and this is why I think it is too deceiving, to be honest, to see whether it's going to be dries or whether it's going to be inters. At the moment, it's inters, and it looks, to be honest, the rain is it beginning to come down again, or is that just the spray coming off the camera? I don't know.
I think it is just the spray coming off the camera. I mean, looking at the halo, there's no rain spots on the halo, so it looks like it's just spray off the front wheels, but my word, it just keeps getting more interesting, doesn't it? The rain came down so quickly, and now it's not clearing as quickly as some drivers were maybe thinking. So they're staying out a little bit longer on these intermediate tyres at the moment. The Alfa Romeo still leads this race. Not long left in this race. There's going to be some drivers that are going to get to a point in this race that think, is it worth coming in for a set of softs if there's 2 laps left in the race? Is it worth coming in? Are they going to be that much faster at the moment? The intermediates don't look fast, but the dry tyres don't look fast either. Like, Fabi is still losing a lot of time. He's now 8 seconds behind Kazizel, so we're still not in dry conditions.
Yeah, he's not losing much, though, compared to a lap ago, if I've got to be honest. 8.3 seconds, that gap was about 7.6. So actually, as literally I say that, it's now got up to about 8.7, 8.8. So I'll literally take part on what I was going to say. Modesto, by the way, is on the back of Cornet, coming now through turn 7 and 8, and then towards, of course, towards the Singapore Sling at turn 10. But Isma leading the way, and DRS has been enabled. So now, is the track dry enough? I was literally saying, Fabi, he wasn't losing as much time as what I thought. And that's exactly why. And now Nico is in. Kazizel's going to be coming into the pit lane as well. Guido's going to try and get the move done on Dutch Missile. The track still looks a little bit wet, but now Hughes is beginning to put the pressure on Isma. 1.2 seconds for the lead of the race, and Hughes is now easily within striking distance if he was to come in this lap.
Yeah, definitely within striking distance. The gap between Kazizel and Fabi is not growing, but it's not shrinking. It's right on the bubble at the moment between the two conditions. So it's so difficult to call as to when they come into the pit lane, but it's only going to get better. So they've got to come in now, haven't they? If they stay out for another lap, they run a massive risk at the moment. Isma and Hughes can both stay out together another lap. They've got such a gap to Vasilo, but they're both in on the same lap. Now we see what tyres they go for. Nico was the first to put on the soft compound tyres further down the field. It's got to be soft, surely, at this point in the race. Further down, Gil finally going for the move on Dutch Missile. Down to turn 14. He's got the move done, but he's already 9 seconds behind Will G. That is a massive gap further down. Leo, the other TF10 car, trying to get a move done on Louis here. Down through 15 and 16. It's just not quite worked for him. He'll have to stay in 12th place for the time being, but both TF10 cars trying to work their way through the field at the moment, and actually Dutch Missile's gone straight on at turn 18, has missed the corner, and he's dropped a lot of places as everybody's into the pits for a set of softs.
Everyone is into the pitch for a set of soft gun penalties. Mitchie has picked up a penalty. Isma leads the way. A gap is a second. The gap is a second compared to Isma and Yusa. Yusa's actually gained a little bit of time coming into the pit lane there, and it's really affecting him. Now, he's much better as there's been a collision into the pit lane, I think. Mitchie has picked up a severe collision penalty with Leo, and I think somebody else did as well. Was it Louis that picked up a penalty as well?
I didn't quite see that one. I didn't quite see which order the drivers were, but yeah, bizarre with no safety car to see
Leo
that kind
and
of penalty. Yeah, see that kind of penalty coming in. Yon stayed out. The Mentalista driver is the only driver that stayed out on the intermediate tyres here. We'll see
Modesto! Down the inside line of Duncan, sorry to cut you off, he's forced him completely off track, and the FVR man just about lets him move down, Duncan's in the wall, and that was inevitable. Modesto, I don't know what he was doing, down the inside line, in towards turn 7 at Memorial Corner, nearly caused contact, pushed Duncan completely off track. Duncan now behind Johan. Duncan's race completely ruined by Modesto there, and Modesto in 5th, but that is bound to be a penalty, I'm sorry.
Yeah, turn 7's definitely a penalty for Modesto, but that is a shame. Duncan, I've got to say that turn 8 incident just before turn 8, Duncan's more at fault. He kind of cut across the front of the Alfa Romeo and didn't give him enough room and spun himself out across the front of the Alfa Romeo, but of course that whole situation unfolded because Modesto was just far too deep into turn 7 and it's just never going to work for him. He holds on to 5th, but yeah, that has got to be a penalty coming his way. That was, yeah, just a day late and $1 short, unfortunately, for the Alfa Romeo. It was never going to work, and Duncan's then ended up returning the favour on himself and spun himself around. We'll see if he's got any damage. I don't think he has. I think he's only lost the one place to Modesto, who was far enough ahead of Namsco to not have to worry about the Alpine, the Haas driver. So he should be okay, and he'll likely probably get that pace back on penalties. And Duncan right behind Yon, those intermediate tyres are done. It's not intermediate conditions anymore. Yon's going to drop a lot of places when he comes into the pits. And
I think we better get the move for the lead of the race as well, because Yusa's on the back of Isma. I don't think he's far enough back to try and dive this down into toward Memorial Corner. So Isma, I think, is going to hang on to the lead at least for a couple more corners, maybe down in towards turn 14. There is a spinner out in sector 3. I think it might have been Mitchie, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Mitchie has spun, coming through. He's still in 14th position. I think he has got a bit of front wing damage, however, he's losing a lot of time compared to Gustav on the left-hand side. We'll still stick on board with this battle for the lead, though. Isma leading the way. Houston second. Facilo and Cornet is going to get going for the final point-scoring position as well in terms of the podium. Yellow flag coming through the final corner. Again, is Mitchie. I think he's into the pit lane to maybe retire the car, and that is disappointing for the TTG man. Obviously, there's points available for these guys, and obviously Mitchie retiring, Asi retiring, Jensen retiring. I don't think they're going to be too happy in terms of their teammates, and there's certainly going to be a few words said. But Isma leading the way. Used in second. Used is on the back, but what lap does he go for try and get this move done? Because honestly, I think he should go now and just absolutely dominate the final 4 laps of this race.
Yeah, I think that's the luxury that Eust has, is he can do it whenever he wants, really. He's had such a pace advantage in the dry on a lot of these drivers. He didn't clank the wall there, so hopefully he doesn't pick up any damage, but he's had such a pace advantage in the dry that he doesn't have to wait to the end and worry about being re-overtaken by Isma. He can just do it whenever he wants and clear off into the distance. Isma, though, has got a lot more ERS, interestingly, at this point in the race, so he's got a lot of stuff that he can defend with. If he can get a good enough run out of the corners of interest, like turn 5 and turn 13, he can hold on to that lead if he's got enough in his tank to be able to do so. Used it, again, not close enough down Rappels Boulevard. Even if he wanted to go for the move, he's not close enough to do that move. So if Isma can just keep doing this, he could hold on. Cornet, though, a bit closer to the back of Fusillo for 3rd on the podium at the moment. Shizou, yeah, this is going to be a much closer run now. He's got the ERS on. Even before we managed to get out of the corner, he's going to look to the inside line of turn 6. Nothing really Fusillo can do. And Cornet is back up into the podium places.
Yeah, now Namsco has overtaken Duncan as well. So Duncan threw down towards turn 1, I think that was, from Namsco. And Duncan has got damage, I think, definitely on that car. Because there goes Will G right beside him. And Duncan now really struggling. Left side end plate damage, I think, is damage in terms of a winglet. Will G now through, and he's into P7. Never thought I'd be seeing the day where Will is actually outgunning Duncan in terms of the pace. And Duncan just seems to be struggling. I think he knows that this race is probably up in terms of him. And not a VSR 1-2 for the first time this season as well, which I think spices up the championship a little bit further. Isma leading the way though, Used in second, Cornet in 3rd, and again, more rain just beginning to come down the camera lens, and it's just purely down the camera lenses here around the track. But there is no rain currently for the remainder of this race, it seems. Isma leading the way. Houston second. Isma is doing such a solid job, I've got to be honest. Houston's not close enough in the important part. And he picks up a 3-second penalty. So that now will come back to bite him. Isma for FVR. I think the FVR boys are probably cheering at this point. Isma now leading the way. He's got a 3-second buffer. He may as well let Hughes through. But does he? Because Hughes is so much quicker than him. And it's a bit of a tongue-twisting situation, to be honest.
I mean, just to make it even better for FBR, Hughes, again, I don't think is close enough coming out of turn 5. Isma is so fast through turn 5 that Hughes can't go for the move down Raffles Boulevard. He can't get close enough, and that Alfa Romeo is quite fast in a straight line. So it's working nicely. And just to make it even better for FBR, obviously Modesto might have a penalty coming his way after this race, but for right now, both Cornet and Fusillo both picked up a penalty on that last lap. And Modesto is in penalty range of both of them. So FVR could end up having a double podium from this race, having neither of them set a lap time in qualifying. So, yes, obviously penalties could be coming their way, but for the time being at least, it could be a double podium for FVR. And Modesto's actually closed in on the back of Fusillo and has the actual outright speed over the Red Bull driver. So he might not even wait for the penalties. He might just be able to get this one done on track.
Yeah, I think the stewards for this championship, as Hughes tries to go all the way around the outside of Isma in towards turn 14, doesn't get the move done. I think the stewards will be looking to give FVR maybe more qualifying bans, because if this is how they perform around Singapore, goodness knows what they could do around other tracks. Isma leading the way, Houston second, Corday in third, Kazizel picks up another 3-second penalty, still trooping around there in 17th, and still on the same lap, which is crucial. Isma, however, he just seems to be overrunning the curb slightly now, and maybe a few warnings beginning to kick in. Isma could be at risk of getting a 3-second penalty. At the moment, though, with 2 laps to go, Isma leads the way. Houston second, Cornet in third, Louis now through on Duncan, and he's doing his interpay. I think Duncan accepts now that his race is pretty much numbered after that contact with Modesto. But Isma now, under pressure from Hughes. Hughes has got to make this move done now, but he gets caught on a little bit of standing water, coming out the exit of 3, and now he's got to get the run out of turn 5, but he carries the speed so much more in, and that's why Isma gets away from him running down Raffles Boulevard.
Yeah, the only part of this track where Isma seems to be faster than Hughes is turn 5, and that is the crucial point of this lap. Now that if Hughes does get the move done on Isma, he's not got enough time left in this race. As Leo's crashed. Leo has crashed
17.
in the final sector. Oh my word. With only a lap and a half to go in this race, he's crashed the car. What a disaster for the TF10 driver, as Modesto's got the move on Fusillo. Out of turn 7 and into turn 8, he's passed the Red Bull driver and he's up into 4th position on the road. Is the Alfa Romeo. What a race for the 2 Alfa Romeos. It may not be a win for them after this one because of the stewards' room, but either way, it's still been an amazing performance for both of the Alfa Romeo drivers. And further down, Duncan now. It's such a shame for Duncan. That damage is running him the risk of, if he's too slow in these final 2 laps, he could end up not finishing inside the top 10. Remember, we've not had any team other than VSR win a race this season. This could be the first team to not win to win a race that isn't VSR, and it's currently the team that are last in the points.
Yeah, definitely, and actually Hughes nearly clips the wall on the left side end plate as well, so Hughes, I think, realises that his days might be numbered as well, because Isma now comes around the final 2 corners to start the final lap of the race here in Singapore. It has been a long race for these guys, but now at the final lap, 6/10 away between the first 2, Isma leading the way, Houston second. Houston ideally needed to try and make a move done last lap around. He is not close enough. Look at his ERS as well, he's only on 10%. Isma's on 38% ERS. This has been an absolute masterclass in terms of management of ERS, and now he can just use it up to his heart's content running down Raffles Boulevard, and Isma is on his way for FVR to pick up a victory. Hughes is going to be second. Modesto, whether he picks up a penalty or not, that will remain to be seen as a part of the series with the contact with Duncan, but for now he's on the back of Cornet, and do you know what, maybe down into turn 14 he could be close enough.
He could be close enough. He doesn't need to risk the move, though. He's got it on-track penalties, at least at this point in the race anyway. And, I mean, Hughes has such an amazing qualifying session. I was certain that he was just going to drive away from anybody in this race. The fact that Isma has, at this stage of the race, been able to out-ERS manage and outperform the Aston Martin driver in this final part of the race is astonishing. Hats off to Isma, even if he gets a penalty for his contact earlier on in the race. What a performance it's been from the back of the field. And people will say that this was a lucked into possibly victory. He drove himself through the field at the start of this race to get up into the lead of it before all the pit stops. He knew that rain was coming and he's made perfect use of it, and it looks like he's going to win this race.
Yeah, he's done it the hard way, but he has done it in an absolute style as well. If Isma doesn't pick up a penalty, these are the provisional results, as now Isma comes through the final corner at Singapore to win the Singapore Grand Prix and to win round 4 of the PSGL Esports Cup. Used finishes in second, and for the first time this season, he finishes in second as well. As part of the VSR outfit, Duncan obviously down in 10th, will not be finishing maybe in the top 10 even because Johan's on the back, but Cornet comes across the line to finish in P3. Modesto for now, P3. Whether that remains to be seen, of course, it remains to be seen as well. Namskull looks like he's about to run out of fuel. Will LG in behind as well. Namskull could be close to running out of fuel here with Will LG all over the back of him. And I think he has. Has Namskull run out of fuel around the final corner? He has. Has he, Will LG? Side by side to the line, and obviously Will LG had 6 seconds worth of penalties, so that was nothing to get excited about whatsoever. Namskull in 6th, Will LG in 7th, Louis in 8th, with Giel coming across the line in 9th. I think he'll gain not a position there. Duncan has dropped behind Johan, and now Duncan is going to be possibly P10. He's been carried through the final corner, actually, by Gustav and Dutch Missile. He does pick up P10 in the end. Johan in 11th, Gustav in 12th, Dutch Missile in 13th. I'm sure that'll be investigated as a spinner through the final corner. That's Fabi in 14th. TTG. Nico in 15th. His connection troubles really ruined him for a good chance in this race. I mean, Facilo finishing P5, so Nico probably would have been up there as well. And the OP man comes across the line to finish in P15, crashes himself into the wall after a frustrating race. And Kazizzle, fair play to Kazizzle. Michiasi and Jensen retired. Kazizzle didn't. He was nearly a lap down. Finishes in 16, picks up valuable points for Shizou as well. And that is what we like to see. Drivers finishing, even if their race is completely and utterly run. Driver of the Day awarded by the in-game fans. Who else? Isma, I think regardless, will get Driver of the Day because of an absolute solid drive tonight.
Yeah, really, really amazing drive. I think it was Azzy that he had contact. No, it was Gustav, sorry, that he had contact earlier on in the AlphaTauri. That might put pay to this victory for him, but either way, what a performance. Even without that incident that he would have had with Gustav, he had such a storming start to this race on those medium tyres from last on the grid. He was up past Namsko, who was on the same chassis, who started 11th in this race. Within the first 6 laps of this race, around Singapore, which is such a difficult track to overtake on, he managed the mediums perfectly as well before the rain came, and then he managed the pressure of Yustu, who's been the fastest driver all night as well. Hats off to him. What a performance.
What a performance. The Spaniards currently finished first and third. As I say, provisional results at this stage. Isma has taken the win here in Singapore from Just in second, Modesto in third. Both of them had contact. Somebody there in the comment section saying he might pick up 10 or 15 seconds worth of penalties. That's for the stewards to decide and not for the comment section to decide here on the stream. But Isma wins. Just in second, Modesto in third, Cornet in fourth, Facilo in fifth, Namsko in sixth, Will LG in seventh, recovered well after a mistake earlier on. Louis in eighth, Giel in ninth, Duncan ran off the top 10. Disappointing, I think, from Duncan. I think he had floor damage or suspension damage, something like that, for him to go that slowly through the race. Johan in 11th, Gustav in 12th, Dutch Missile in 13th. Fabi actually picked up the fastest lap of the race as well for TTG, so I think that's an extra point to them. Nico finishing in 15th, Kazizzle in 16th, Leo didn't finish, neither did Michi, Asi and Jensen. And that is that for Singapore. Isma has won, Just in second and Modesto in third, all provisional of course.
Yeah, of course, all provisional, and even if it is a 10 or 15 second penalty, like some people are maybe suggesting, that's still a second place finish for Isma because he finished 16 seconds clear of his teammates. So either way, it's still an incredible performance from the back of the field to finish in second. So if that penalty is true, if that does come true. So yeah, brilliant drive. And we've said it so far, we said it pretty much every time we've come to this event so far, haven't we? The FVR just keep building momentum. They didn't have a great start to the season. Well, they had a terrible start to the season really in Baku, didn't they? They had an awful race. It picked up a bit in France. It got better at Spain. They had really, really strong pace. And here it's come on song for them. This could be a real turning point for their season now.
Yeah, it has absolutely peaked, I think, in terms of their performance for FVR. An absolute solid drive. Isma, I think, definitely gets our drive of the day as well here in the commentary booth. And, of course, a big thank you to everyone that has tuned in. We might not be getting the viewers of, like, 500 like we were at the start of this season. But every single viewer, every single supporter of every single team, you deserve a pat on the back for joining us for the Singapore Grand Prix. And hopefully you will continue to inspire more people to join the streams and really delve into the action that we have out on track here for PSGL and the Esports Cup event. But that is it from us, from myself and Aidan. Tom Zaggers, of course, in the commentary box as well with us, doing the graphics behind the scenes. You can give him a massive wave and everything in the comment section as well. And if you did like the stream, like, comment, subscribe, take that notification bell, of course, if you are new. I think PSGL is back with F11, F12 and F13 on Sundays as well, and hopefully we will get the same amount of viewers as we did then on, of course, for Sunday. But for myself and Aidan, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.